Support.
The maestro, please!
First pop analysis of 2024. Today we're going to be looking at Yes and by Ariana Grande.
Ariana Grande.
Marking the 4th time we've talked about Ariana Grande, the first 3 being she managed to get one more hit off of her album Positions, that being
Love me like you do. I'd love to save me from your point of view.
And despite not doing much, she still made a couple of guest appearances on some other songs like
Save your tears for another day.
Background.
Yes and was released on January 12th, 2024, charting thereafter on the 27th and was #1 as of the end of January. It is the lead single off of Ariana Grande's upcoming album Eternal Sunshine, which was scheduled to be released on March 8th. With its release came along a digital EP that had obviously the instrumental, an a cappella, and an edit which had a shorter instrumental intro and a more cut-off ending. In addition, there's also an extended mix along with its accompanying instrumental that has an extended intro, a formal outro, and an extended third chorus. And because TikTok has made it a thing, there is also a sped up version. And a slowed version. Besides Ariana Grande, the only 2 additional credits we have on here are Max Martin and Ilya. We first talked about Max Martin when we were doing Ariana Grande's Side to Side, but we also talked about him in 2019 when we did
Cause I don't care when I'm with my baby, yeah. Oh yeah. All the bad things disappear.
and then again in 2020 when we did Considering he's basically the mastermind behind most of pop music these days, he has gotten a few more since then, like when he did
Baby, you are my universe
And while technically a re-release, it was newly released and then newly charted, so I don't know if it counts, but he also did.
'Cause baby, now we got bad blood. You know it used to be bad love.
Moving on to Ilya, another pop music powerhouse, also mentioning him when we did Ariana Grande's Side to Side so long ago, but talked about him much more recently when we did Hasn't been up to too much in terms of credits on the pop chart, given he did manage to get one more since then.
To be loved, am I ready?
Yes and is released solely by Republic.
Form.
Yes and is considered both a house and a pop song, is just over 3.5 minutes long, is in B-flat minor or E-flat major depending on where you are in the song, and is 119 beats per minute. The song opens up with an intro, first starting off as instrumental before adding Ariana's vocals in there as well. That's then followed by a pretty short first verse.
In case you haven't noticed.
And then the first pre-chorus.
Boy, come on, put your lipstick on. No one can tell you. Come on.
Before getting into the first chorus.
Yes. And
we then get the equally short second verse.
Underneath your own projection.
A more vocally layered pre-chorus.
In a dark situation, just turn on your light and be loud.
And then appropriately a more vocally layered second chorus.
Say that shit with your chest.
We then get the bridge.
My tongue is sacred, I speak upon what I like.
The third and final chorus.
Say that shit with your chest. Keep moving your business. Yes, and yes.
Before the song ultimately ends.
Keep moving the business. Yes, and yeah.
Vocals.
One of the first things we hear included on the instrumental version of the track, so hence I'm including it in the instrumental section of this pop analysis, mostly focusing around that E flat with the pitch bend starting on D flat. Given on the words dancing, he does start up on that B flat and work his way back down to the E flat. That pretty much repeats, given at the very end of the phrase, it goes B flat, D flat, E flat, B flat, repeats that figure, but ultimately ends on that low G flat.
Chords.
Wildly syncopated 16th note, very short 7th chords, basically just going back and forth between E flat minor 7 and A flat dominant 7 over G flat. Repeating that basically until we get to the end of the section, we then get these two whole note chords at the end, an E flat minor 7 over B flat and an F minor 7 over A flat. Later on in the song, it keeps repeating those rhythms with the highly syncopated 16ths, but it's now changed the chords. It's now an F minor 7 over E flat and a B flat major add 9 over F. Similarly to before, it does repeat that until the end. That very last chord is simply a B flat major over F and much lower in range. The last chord figure we hear is actually during the bridge, very simplified, both in terms of rhythms and harmonies. All whole notes simply going back and forth between F minor and B flat major over F.
Bass.
The bass is actually quite similar rhythmically to what the chords do, given its slightly different timing, but still very focused on those syncopated 16ths. Starting off, it really just is going back and forth between that low E flat and the A flat above it, given at the very end it has that lovely little figure going from A flat to B flat. Just like the chords, basically repeats that until the very end where we get this lovely descending figure at the end. Later in the song, it does switch things up a little bit, not necessarily focusing on one note per bar, going B flat twice, then down to A flat, then down to F, and then back to A flat, which it then pretty much repeats. And just like before, repeats that until the very end. That final bar, we have that B flat, A flat, F descending figure, and the note values are held out much longer. Oddly enough, it actually repeats that same thing during the bridge, given it's slightly different, has that held out A flat near the end, and actually there's a bar of nothing after that.
Synth.
We get this short synth figure every now and again, only 2 bars, starting off on that G flat, then going to A flat, then going to F, then going to E flat, working its way back to F, repeating that F one more time before ending on that E flat.
Guitar.
One of 2 completely new instruments that are introduced in the bridge, doing these lovely 8th note and quarter note figures, working its way up from that low E flat, going all the way to the F at the top of the staff. Given the following bar, it does do that same thing, but now it starts on D natural as opposed to E flat. The following phrase repeats that, but if you listen closely near the back half of it, you can hear a second guitar coming in, plucking that F on the offbeats.
Flute.
The second of the 2 newly introduced bridge instruments, there's technically 3 if you count that B-flat chime that hits every other bar. Regardless, the flute starts on that B-flat, slowly goes down to that A-flat, then getting down to that F through a G natural. It then continues to hit that G natural, then that F, then that E flat, before finally ending on that D natural for one whole bar, and finally ending on a quick C at the end.
Intro.
There are really no lyrics in the intro, but you do very much hear Ariana Grande. In fact, you hear her 5 times coming in at different points, all on that E flat. The following phrase repeats that, given it's a bit shorter, and the first note we hear is not that E flat. We hear her much higher in her range, on that B flat, working her way up to the C. When the rest of the beat actually comes in, we get 2 additional vocal lines on top of everything I just went over, and they're a bit more interesting than just simply holding that E flat. And in the final part of the intro, we have them kind of repeating that thing we went over in the second phrase, with that B flat up to C. You can see it up top there, but then it also does that B flat down to A flat back up to B flat, which the lower voices then emulate either an octave or a fifth below.
Verse.
The verse starts off significantly less layered than the intro does, spanning the range of that low B flat to the A flat on the staff. And here you begin to really see what I was getting at earlier when I said, depending on where you are in the song, it's either in B flat minor or E flat major. You'll note in this entire phrase, it is all G naturals and D naturals, which would imply more E flat major than it would B flat minor.
In case you haven't noticed, everybody's tired.
The following phrase pretty much repeats that. Obviously, there are different rhythms here, more quarter notes than the eighth notes we got before, but still very much in that range of B flat to A flat, and still very much using G natural and D natural.
And healing from somebody or something we don't see just right.
The second verse pretty much repeats what the first verse was doing. However, we now have an additional vocal layer at various points throughout it.
I'm so done with caring what you think. No, I won't hide.
You'll notice the layer is typically only ever added to the back half, typically in thirds or fourths, very much emphasizing various parts of the lines.
Underneath your own projections, or change my most authentic life.
Pre-chorus.
The pre-chorus starts to move Ariana Grande up in her range. You'll notice that the lowest note of the main vocal line here is A flat, which was the highest note of the main vocal line in the verses. Regardless, we're also getting some more intense rhythms here, things a bit more spaced out, sometimes some 16th melismas and such, and we have those lovely additions on top in the form of eighth notes and octaves with each other.
Boy, come on, put your lipstick on. No one can tell you. Come on and walk this way through the bar.
As the pre-chorus continues, those backup vocals taper off at least until the very end, and we have Ariana Grande a little bit lower, going on that F, and the rhythms are much more simplistic.
And if you find yourself in a dark situation, just turn on your light and be light.
Just like in the second verse, the big thing in the pre-chorus is that now there's an additional layer on the main vocal lines, mostly in thirds the entire time. There's a couple of places where it's just Ariana Grande herself, like Come On And, but for the most part, completely layered.
Boy, come on, put your lipstick on. No one can tell you. Come on and walk this way through the bar.
And that pattern of layering continues into the second part of the second pre-chorus, except at the very end where we just get that main vocal line.
And if you find yourself in a dark situation, just turn on your light and be light.
Chorus.
You'll notice that the chorus is obviously a bit more simplistic than everything we've gone over so far. Very spaced out, really just that quick rhythm in the middle, and now we're very much in B flat minor as opposed to E flat major.
Yes, and say that shit with your chest. And
The second half of the chorus does get a bit more interesting, repeating that 16th note syncopation figure, and we have an additional vocal line at the end, going down from the top, B flat, A flat, F, E flat, going back up to F, and then that E flat with those 2 half notes on the end.
be your own fucking best friend. Say that shit with your chest. Keep moving, what's next? Yes,
Just like every other section in this song, when the chorus returns, it gets a bit more layered, and now you can really hear that it's much more in B flat minor than E flat major. You'll notice that the layered vocals are added in only in parts throughout the actual chorus, either on the downbeat or on those syncopations, really much affirming the E flat minor key as opposed to the earlier chorus, which you could argue one way or the other because there weren't as many notes being hit. The only other change in the chorus we ever get is at the very end, where we get that quintessential Ariana Grande doing ad-libs over the final part of the song.
Bridge.
The bridge has two main parts to it. We get the main vocal line, which is just Ariana Grande essentially talking, and then underneath that we have all of the other Ariana Grande backup vocals that are layered over themselves to make things a bit more dense, especially considering that the instrumental at this point is fairly sparse.
My tongue is sacred, I speak upon what I like. Protected, sexy, discerning with my tongue.
As the bridge continues on, there are the occasional Ariana Grande ad-libs underneath everything, sometimes actually repeating what the main vocal line is saying.
My tongue, your energy is yours, and mine is mine. What's mine is mine.
Into the second half of the bridge, that same idea repeats. We have the main talking line up top, we have the vocal harmonies in the middle, and we have the Ariana Grande ad-libs at the bottom.
My face is saying, I don't need no disguise. Don't comment on my body, do not reply.
As we get to the end of the bridge, though, those ad-libs stop, and we just have the main vocal line, accompanied by the harmonies underneath that actually do drop out at the very end.
My business is yours, and mine is mine. Why do you care so much? Who's that right? Why?
Interesting to go over a more house-oriented track than what we've done previously with Ariana Grande, very much focusing on R&B and trap, especially with her album Positions back in 2020, but this is the first single off of her upcoming album, so maybe it's going to more focus on those electronic genres as opposed to the hip-hop genres. Regardless, this song is very dense, and I am not just talking about the several billion vocal layers in here. There's a lot of drama about this song, but I imagine she's... Again, I'm not going to explicitly go over all of the drama, but it's very on the nose with the lyrics the way they are in this song, so if you're curious, go Google it.